I'll check out the leaks for his skill set. Hopefully he's good. But for now, first I'll review all of these monsters in order, and stick around to the end, and I'll talk about if Zarakane is the best person here or the worst. It looks like just because all of these guys are so mid that he's going to be the best. And I have not reviewed Grindy either, although he's a status caster, can't reapply it at all. Pierce monster, which I love to hear because you never see Pierce monsters with swords. And he's nature with Artifact Hater. Artifact is not the most popular. The two most popular are Copperbeard and Hydrorian, which I really love, so we'll see if that's any good, if he goes anywhere in the meta. But let's go from worst to best, how about it? So at worst is definitely going to have to be this guy, Obsidiantes. Now I will say, if you need someone to complete the Fiery Forces book, or if you want to get him for collection, you do that. But this man is the most basic denier ever. He has 1 AoE for stun, and maybe stamina leak. I believe it because, it's just another thing they try and add on to make him seem not as bad. But I remember from his skill set, he is an AoE stun, just with damage, so if you hit any relics, they're going to hit you full strength. He had an AoE vulnerable, separate, not together, which still would have been pretty bad. And he had an AoE nightmares. He had a single stun with vulnerable, and that was his entire skill set. His trait was just like Empress Luthien's, it was forgettable and really bad. I think he was immune to Death Countdown. His trait is his relics is the only saving grace about him. Those are at least decent, but that doesn't make up for a completely bad monster. The last guy you want to go for, and sadly he's going to be the easiest to get. Now, second up on the list has got to be my Kinetic. He was introduced last season, and he's extra expensive because he was last season's bounty hunt monster. He's the most expensive guy here, and not for good reason. He is, in a lot of ways, basically the same as Obsidiantes, except he comes with a new mechanic, negative effect protection, meaning you can't cleanse away negative effects until you cleanse away that first, which does make him kind of unique. He's the first monster to have it, so maybe you just have him to play around with the mechanic. He can stun and apply it in one turn, so they can't remove the stun. Yeah, they really can't, because there's no one who can cleanse cleanse again, so you can't remove the stun once he applies it. And he has a single version of that. He has a AoE stamina leak and an AoE negative effect protection. He's kind of cool. I like him. His move designs are some of my favorite in a while, but overall he's really bad. Third up, and this is a hard battle because almost everyone here is pretty bad, I'm gonna have to go with Wolverine. I do like him as a straight up water attacker in his basicness, he was the first monster to be released, or the second, because Hydrorian was the first to have boiling, and the way I saw him back then, he was just an attacker with strong moves and boiling. Nothing special. He was going to get outdated really quick, but at least he has a good dot to go with some good damage. So I gotta say, I kinda gotta recommend you get him. We're in a fire meta, so it wouldn't hurt to have a water monster, but his attack moves and his attack stats are outdated. He really isn't worth it, but he's good for collection. Another monster from the Underworld Dwellers book you can pick up, which is, he's a nice contrast because almost all of the Underworld Dwellers are straight up red. Yeah, most of them are straight up red. Although I know, what is her name? It's Magic Wand Girl. It is gonna hit me. It's a bet. She's purple, but that's the only variety. I'm getting off topic. La Mama. She is light and water, which is actually a really good trait for the meta since we are in a light and fire meta, so her water can counter them. And she's kind of in the same exact boat as Wolverine, except with more redeeming qualities. She can stun and freeze. 2 dots that if you have the immunity to one, you probably don't have an immunity to the other. And, 2 AoEs. And they both come with their own separate dots, so that if they are immune, they're getting hit with some pretty strong dots, especially if they're a fire monster. She has a stun with boiling, which when it was new, it was seen as so powerful. and it still is. It's a really good dot. So you can stun them and you'll give them boiling, right? And then you have a freeze move, which freeze with drown. So that's a lot of water damage you're doing. I think it's got to be at least 25% water damage that you're doing, plus 15% fire, which really wrecks any fire monsters. Even if the fire monster, you know, the fire part of boiling is weaker to them, but then the water takes them out. She has a lot of water. So I like her. I used her a lot as a monster that can chain deny twice, and maybe you have one extra monster to apply a dot, because boiling, drowned, and like two, maybe one more thing, should finish off most of your enemies. She is in the Syndicate, which is good in case you need more monsters in that book. I know there's a lot of books where I need more mythics, so this is definitely going to be helpful. Oh yeah, because I'm using, I gotta do the Alex Bone era saga, so really useful. Yeah, I do like her, but I gotta admit, she's not that great. So next one is kind of hard. I'm gonna do Tonybite first. Her biggest downside is that she's outdated. She just has Tough and Megataunt as a trait. That's her highest trait. I think it goes from, like, Hardened to Tough, and then just Tough with Megataunt. She can do Sunburn, which was a really good dot back then when it was a dark meta, but now that we're in the light meta, it's really bad. And she was also kind of an attacker, because then she did Vulnerable AoE with light damage, and then she had a single Bomb Jump, it was called, where you do light and vulnerable in one move. And those are pretty decent for a basic light attacker, but for a tank, they were good dots to take down other tanks. Like, I know in a lot of tank mirror matches, I was able to defeat them like that. But on her own, not that great. I will say, I remember she has a 50% heal with Immune to Control, which is a pretty great support move. And she has Megataunt plus damage protection. So you have that 50% damage protection when you reapply your Megataunt, and you have a 50% heal with Immune to Control, so they can't possess you, so you don't apply your own dots to yourself. So she will most definitely win a good amount of fights against other tanks. I've done it a lot of times before, but she's outdated. She's good for the Electro Patrol. I know I myself need more monsters in that book, but that's it. Most of these monsters are in books, by the way. I think all of them are. Yep, every single one except for my Kinetic and Zarakane, but they were bounty hunt monsters. Bounty hunt monsters usually are in there. So here's Firecatcher, who she's basically like she's the fire half of Teddy Bomb that can cleanse. She has moderate cleansing and decent dot dealing. She can do random dots with random tortures, which is really good. And if, like I said, you can put her with La Mama, and maybe you get the right weakness, or you get some really powerful dots starting to stack up. Let's say you give them Light Weakness as a move she has. She was released at the same time as Tonybite. So you give them Light Weakness, all the enemies. I think, yeah, you can do a cleanse to one enemy and then do Light Weakness. And then have Cherub Cupid or Serpentex or Elvira Demon Slayer or any of the light meta monsters and go and wreck. She has Dodge Area, which gives her a lot of synergy. It's really just a free pass for making a monster better. And she can cleanse off the enemies and your allies. But with all of that said, it sounds a lot better on paper. She does not have the extra turns that is required for those to be as good as they should be. Like, if she can cleanse then apply all these dots, that'd be amazing. But she can't. She can only do those separately. So she's not at the top of your list, but she's pretty good. And I would definitely pick her up for Revenge Squadron. I say that about every monster. Next on the list, which I clarify him as pretty great. Maybe it's because I love his design to death. I even got him to rank 3 for fun on my last account. Another monster in another book, Celestial Paladin, Mechanical and Winged. He is a support monster, very, very similar to Seashell Guard, but not as good. He has the Celestial trait, he has Hardened, I would be led to believe if I remember right, and then he has a 50% shield status caster to all, and he has a lot of shield boost to all. He has a 40% shield to all allies, gives itself taunt. He has a 50% shield to all allies, gives its No, yeah, just a spammable 50% shield to all allies, which is a lot better than you think it is. He has a bleed to all enemies, and he has, I think, another shielding move. So in my eyes, he's good for what he does. He shields. Let's say that I've had a lot of wars where I can take them out with only 2 monsters. If you want to just kind of secure that battle without wasting another really great monster, here's a monster who can be a safety policy. You know, 50% shields in case they get a finisher or they hit you with a dot that you didn't think they would. A lot of times I go into battles and I don't realize what relics they're using, and they can eat you up. So I think his spammable shielding capabilities are decent, but they'll get cleansed away a lot. Maybe he shouldn't have been that high on the list. Maybe Firecatcher should have been 2nd place, but it's my opinion. And this one is the absolute best person here, and even with that said, she's not that great. But I really did want her when she released Queen Zara, nature and light attacker with reverse healing and healing skills. Now, I really love her gimmick of reverse healing, but she doesn't do it with extra turns or anticipation that make Nuke, Aura, and Poseidon Nia so powerful. But I'll explain what she does do. So first, her trait. Pretty good. I believe she has a status caster torture immunity to all or to herself. Let me check real quick. That's really important for how good she is. Second monster release. Alright, her trait. Yeah, the first one is life increase. Increases. It's a dude? No, I'm joking. But this is kind of outdated because it says increases his maximum life when it's probably on a lot of monsters that don't have genders. And then second trait is immune to daze. Really, really worthless. She doesn't even have a status caster like hardened, so she's always gonna be taking any denials that you hit her with, no matter what, unless you have some sort of protection, which she needs. But her third trait is kind of a saving grace. It's status caster immunity to torture, which she can easily reapply, but status caster is only to herself, not to all, which is what we like to see. She does have strong moves. She has a massive light move that gives healing to all of your allies and enemies, which you might be thinking, oh my god, it gives it to all enemies? That makes her really bad. But it's actually quite the opposite, because she has a setup move of applies reverse healing to all enemies, and if they don't cleanse that away, and you can apply the healing to them before that, and even if they do, even if they apply evasion that doesn't cleanse away that reverse healing, guess what? The healing, since it's a positive effect, goes through. So, on a massive light attack, which could kill a monster, hypothetically, you give yourself healing, so your team is, sustained, and you give them healing, which is a really bad thing, because if you've got it all set up right, that is 60% of life removal. She does have Sunburn, and she has a immune to torture to all allies move. Honestly, I think she's pretty good, but the fact that she's light is good for the meta, but the fact that she's nature kind of takes her down. This Fire, Pierce specifically, is really, really popular. I think she's just fun to use, and she's got her own Arrow Saga, which immediately gives her a lot of value, as you'll get a free talent and gems out of her. So yeah, she's definitely number 1 priority on the list so far. Now let me check exactly what Zarakane can do. A more detailed cover of him, and I really want to, but I'll save that for the review I'm going to make later. Checking out his moves, and I will say beforehand, I was looking through the leaks before I got here, and they said he was a nerfed version of Volcanics, which I kind of think that even a nerfed version would be the best guy on the list, but let's see. His trait is unfortunate. You have, what's that called? Hardened. At least you have the Umbrella trait. You have, oh my god, immune to sudden death, which is kind of a death wish. It's kind of the telltale sign of a bad monster, sadly, especially if they only have 3 traits. And you have a random debuff, or is it negative effect? And negative effect, alright. At best, you get, death countdown or total blind, but that is not gonna be useful in any capacity. Alright, so I hear he's an attacker with dots and magic weakness, which is actually literally every single magic attacker they've been releasing, but all pity. Alright, so Cryptic Smile is the first move I see high on the list. which has a 20 stamina 0 cooldown, which applies random torture. I like random tortures, but a 1-turn torture, no, like a 1 random torture on 20s, like even for 20 stamina, isn't that worth it? Moderate magic to all, not worth running. Applies immunity to blind, that was never going to be good. And random, why would you randomly choose between applying immunity to stun, freeze, or possession? Why not all 3? That's so bad. Oh my god. I really hope his moves get better. Applies Bane and a random torture to 1 enemy. So without damage, they said he's an attacker. If that had like heavy damage, I'd say that's a pretty great attacking move. I like that. Bane is a powerful dot, and a random torture can be just what you need to kill the enemy. But without the extra damage, that's not worth it. Like without, heavy. Then you have moderate magic to all enemies, applies Bane, okay. At least you have an AoE with Bane. That's pretty good. That's just like having an AoE with Boiling. It's basic, it's not the best, but it's pretty nice compared to a normal AoE. Mystery Punch deals heavy magic damage to 1 enemy, applies random torture. Alright, so it looks like he is not going to be as good as I read. So, moderate magic to all allies. Another AoE which reapplies Bane. Luckily, Bane is not just like Curse, and the longer you have it, the actual more damage you might do, since it's RNG based, but it's 25, 26, or 30, which are really high damage percentages. So, he can chain Bane to all. I love that rhymes. So that's pretty good. And 2 random negative status effects to all. So how do I feel? He is definitely second best on the list, and that is not a great compliment, since the list of monsters were really bad. So I gotta say, I love his design. I was really hoping he'd be like a Lucky Clint with anticipation, because his design is cool, but his design also screams mid, so did his trait. And sadly, what he is a worse version of not even Volcanics. He's a worse version of Sigrid and Fort, without the high damage, without the dodge area piercing move. He tries to have good random negative effects, but he fails. He can't even put on good dots. Okay, he's the definition of forgettable, sadly. So, yeah, my list still stands, except he's the second best guy you can get on the list behind Zara. And that's about it. Not much more I can say on him. No wonder he was disgraced back in Petra. His lore literally sets him up as a loser. I say do yourself a favor and read it yourself. Because I'll read it in my review of him, but that could be a long time from now since he's bad. So that's about it for the video. Yeah, leave a like to support the video. I work hard on making sure I really get you all of the information I know, at least, on these monsters, and I even went to the leaks to learn about Zarakane, as underwhelming as he is. Yeah, so leave a like to support the video, support the channel. It means a ton. Leave a comment on who you're leave a comment. I want to know your list of who you're getting in order from this bounty hunt, because there's not very many good ones, so I want to know who you're getting in order, since they're all bad, but I suggest you still get them all for collection purposes. Subscribe to join the Crab Army. We are back up to 113. We dipped for a little bit, but we are on our way back up. Subscribe and we'll get higher. And that's about it for this video. Hope you enjoyed, and yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it helpful. Hope you had a great day. Your favorite Omni-Crab signing out.